The lights were too bright, the smiles too polished. It was supposed to be another morning of easy laughter and celebrity charm, but the air on that studio floor, it carried something electric, something waiting to snap. Jennifer Lopez had done this dance before. Polite questions, gentle teasing, applause that felt mechanical. But that morning, as she walked onto the set of The View, something about the room felt off. The laughter was sharper, almost rehearsed. The hosts, gathered around their glass table, leaned in with that practiced curiosity that always seemed to hide something sharper underneath. "Welcome back to The View," Joy Behar said, that familiar grin stretched wide across her face. "Today we have someone very special, the one and only Jennifer Lopez." Unofficial. Cheers. Cameras panned. Jennifer smiled. Professional, poised, unreadable. She knew how to play the game. She'd been playing it for 20 years. But behind that smile, something in her eyes flickered. Not nerves, not fear, just awareness. The segment began like any other. A few jokes about her latest project, a compliment on her outfit, a comment about how she never seems to age. But Joy's tone had that edge, that subtle bite that said this wasn't going to stay polite for long. "So, Jen," Joy said, leaning forward, "you've had quite a few headlines lately. Relationship drama, movie flops, some people saying your career's not what it used to be. How do you respond to that?" There it was, the first strike. Jennifer didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, lips parting just enough to let out a controlled breath. "Well," she said softly, "I think people love to talk. That's their job. Mine is to keep doing what I love." Defiance. A measured answer. Graceful. But Joy wasn't done. "Sure," Joy replied, "but some say it's not just talk. They say you've become difficult to work with, demanding. Even your co-stars have hinted at it." The room fell quiet for half a second, long enough for the tension to become audible. Jennifer's eyes didn't move. "Which co-stars?" she asked. Josh smiled, pretending not to hear the steel in her tone. "You know how Hollywood is. People talk. And you repeat it," Jennifer said calmly. That was the first real moment. The air shifted. Even the audience felt it. Across the table, another co-host tried to steer things back. A laugh, a soft interjection. But Joy pushed forward, scenting blood. "Come on, Jennifer, don't be so sensitive. We're just having fun. You've got thick skin, right?" Jennifer's jaw tightened. That kind of question? It wasn't a question at all. It was a dare. She leaned in slightly, her voice lower now, every syllable deliberate. Being honest isn't being sensitive, but pretending to joke while trying to humiliate someone? That's something else. Dismissed.
The audience wasn't sure whether to laugh or hold their breath. The control booth dinged to Ivor. The director's voice cracked through a headset somewhere off camera. "Keep rolling." Joy blinked. The smile told just for a second, then came back. Thinner. "Wow. Tucky. Guess you really are that DB everyone talked about." Jeffrey's legs curved, but it wasn't a smile anymore. "Maybe I am. Or maybe like people mistaking disrespect for humor." The silence again, heavier this time. That's what had happened. That invisible shade from talk spanked her to something extra sweat. Heavy person of that studio to Briggle sat back. The tangling finally visible the way her hands break the armrests. It wasn't play anymore. "You invited me here to think about my work," she said, voice calm but sharp. "Not to resold gossip that came to women who's this big as small." Voice like spraying from the heart of, "Oh, please, like," she said, "don't make places about feminism. We're just being honest." Hitting the word Jerusalem's eyes narrowed. "No," she said, "you're being breaking. There's a digger. Like to survive. Like single collective are deeply what happens when it's somebody crazy when they perform the pure truth." First, the control beast scrambled the floor. Manager's eyes darted toward the clock. 2 minutes left before the commercial break. Took long to write it out. Crucial to stop. Brazen, turned slightly, blew past Joy's, seeing through the cameras themselves.
people who love the video just putting them teary down, but don't forget, she said, pausing. It's like I'm still standing. But he paused, his hand was hesitant, urgent to support her, feel the storm brewing in front of them. Joy leaned paving her chair, towards the lap. Oh, honey, no one's tearing you down, we're just asking questions. Rachel looked at her, really looked at her, and said always under her breath, couldn't baby ass better ones. The director finally called it old blast AI blue. Played in Playfully Studio, the silence after the applause felt like a wound. The despise a cruel jingles, two women with a pros for each other. One claimed to politically upper peasy to serenely, courageously priceless for the audience for the reason of hope, freedom, this other roll over. The break and wound pulled the face at him, elevate the real worst. They could with a blue paint back in there. Taylor the fully is the plane was but there was a police plane the power girl breaks before the clean of her face displays and put the word one feeling of for this time, even though they could bury what just happened.
Desk, Joy Behar sipped from her mug like nothing had cracked. The crew whispered behind cameras, pretending not to stare, and Jennifer Lopez sat in silence, motionless, calm on the outside, but you could almost hear her heartbeat through the studio noise. When the red light above camera 2 flicked on again, the audience cheered as if instructed by muscle memory. The tension hadn't vanished, it had only learned to smile. "Welcome back," Joy said, voice bright and brittle. "We're here with Jennifer Lopez, who was just telling us how she stays grounded with all that fame." Jennifer tilted her head, polite, almost amused. Grounded is easy when you know who you are. The audience clapped, a polite sound, forced. Joy nodded slowly, her grin sharp. "Well, some might say you've changed, that the fame changed you." Derek blinked once. "If growing up is changing, then yes, I have." The exchange was quick, almost invisible, but every sentence had weight. Every word sounded like the tip of something deeper. Another co-host tried to chime in, her tone sweet and cautious. "Jennifer, you've been through so much. Music, acting, relationships, motherhood. What keeps you centered through all of it?" That question should have softened things, but Jennifer's answer wasn't soft. "Sexuality," she said. "You learn the truth about people when you stop talking and just listen." Her eyes never left Joy. Joy smiled again, too wide now. "So, are you listening to me right now?" Didn't blink. Every word. The laughter that followed didn't sound real. It sounded like static. There was a rhythm to these shows. The rise, the tension, the safe retreat. But this time the rhythm was off. Jennifer wasn't playing her role anymore, and Joy wasn't sure how to control her guest. "So, let's talk about This Is Me. Now," Joy said, trying to pivot. "Some people thought it was indulgent. You've said it's about love, but some critics said it's about ego." Jennifer's smile faded completely. "It's about honesty. And honesty usually makes people uncomfortable." Joy leaned closer. "You think your critics are just uncomfortable? I think some people mistake confidence for arrogance because they've never seen a woman own her space without apologizing for it." That landed heavy. The studio fell quiet. Even the air conditioning seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere in the back, a stagehand mouthed a silent wow. Disregay's face tightened. "You know, you've got a way of spinning things. You sound like your own PR team." Jennifer's eyes glinted. "Or maybe I just learned to stop letting other people write my story." The audience stirred. Whispers, nervous laughs, the crackle of something unraveling in real time. For a moment, Joy seemed unsure. Then she leaned back and delivered it. The line that would send the internet into flames. "Maybe if you stopped writing the story about your story." Gasps. Actual audible gasps. Jennifer froze, but not out of shock, out of precision. She inhaled slowly, steadying the tremor in her voice before it could escape. "You invited me here," she said finally, "to talk about my work. But what you really want is a reaction. You want to see me lose control so you can prove your headline right." Joy's mouth opened, but Jennifer kept going. "I've seen this before. The woman who smiles too much gets called fake. The one who doesn't gets called angry. Either way, you lose." The camera zoomed slightly. It wasn't supposed to, but instinct took over. The moment was real, raw, unscripted. Joy crossed her arms. You're making this sound like we're the villains. It's a talk show, not a courtroom. Jennifer nodded once. Then maybe you should stop treating it like an interrogation. Laughter again. Smaller this time, almost nervous. The co-hosts exchanged glances. No one dared to interrupt. Joy forced a chuckle, eyes narrowing. You really came here ready to fight, huh? Jennifer's reply was quiet. No, I came here ready to be honest. Simmons in her tone stopped everyone. The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. The audience was silent now. You could hear a pin drop between sentences. Jennifer leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. People like you have been asking me the same question for 20 years. Are you still relevant? Are you still in love? Are you still enough? Maybe ask yourself why you keep needing to hear the answer. The pause after that was eternal. Salmon blinked, mouth slightly open, caught between anger and disbelief. And for the first time, the audience began to clap, small at first, then growing. Not polite applause, support. Jennifer didn't look at them. She didn't even smile. She just stared straight ahead, breathing slowly. Joy's grin returned, forced and thin. Oh, you're good, she said. You've really learned how to turn it around, huh? Finally looked back at her. No, she said softly. I just stopped letting people turn me into their punchline. Another pause. Then, all right, we're going to take another quick break. The producer's voice cracked through the speakers, a little too soon, a little too desperate. As the lights dimmed back in her chair, and this time she smiled, not sweetly, but with the kind of calm that comes when the storm is already decided. The worst hadn't happened yet, but everyone in that room could feel it coming. Something would break soon, and it wouldn't be just the show. When the cameras turned back on, even the applause sounded nervous. The energy on the set had shifted into something unpredictable, like a live wire humming just beneath the surface. Joy Behar was smiling again, but it was the kind of smile that hides teeth. The kind that says she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Jennifer Lopez sat upright, her expression unreadable. Calm, centered, but with that faint spark in her eyes, the kind that always appears just before something breaks. Joy leaned into her mic, her tone light but cutting. So Jennifer, let's lighten things up. You've had, what, 5 engagements? 6? Erupted from the audience, half forced, half stunned. Jennifer's lips parted slightly, but she didn't smile. I don't count, she said softly. Joy chuckled. You don't have to. The tabloids do that for you. Another laugh track, but this time it didn't land. Jennifer tilted her head. You really want to talk about tabloids? Hey, I'm just asking what people want to know, Joy said, hands raised in mock innocence. Voice stayed calm. That's the excuse everyone uses right before they cross the line. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably. One tried to intervene. Maybe we should move on. But Joy cut her off. No, I think this is interesting. You've made your love life part of your brand, haven't you? The room went quiet again. Jennifer turned slowly to face her. My personal life isn't a brand. It's my life. You just happen to watch it. Oh, come on, Jen. You sell albums about love. You do interviews about love. Don't act like you don't use it. Jennifer's eyes flashed. You mean I turn my pain into art? Yeah, that's what artists do. Joy shrugged. Or maybe it's just good marketing. That was it. The shift was almost visible, like the air itself grew tighter. Jennifer leaned forward, her tone lowering, her voice now steady and deliberate. You know what's funny? Men can talk about every woman they've ever loved, every heartbreak they've ever had, and people call them poets. But when I do it, I'm manipulative. When I fall in love again, I'm desperate. When I walk away, I'm cold. Why is that? Joy didn't answer. The audience didn't laugh. They just listened. Jennifer kept going. You all build women up until they believe they're invincible, and then the moment they show a crack, you turn it into a headline. She's over. She's emotional. She's unstable. Her voice began to tremble, but not from weakness, from fire. I've worked for everything I have. Every role, every song, every inch of respect. I fought for it. But you, sitting there behind your coffee cup, think you can reduce all that to who I dated? Producers were waving from behind cameras, mouthing, "Move on, cut to commercial, anything." But the director didn't dare. The world was watching. Joy exhaled, gripping the edge of the table. "Look, no one's attacking you," Jennifer interrupted, quiet but fierce. "Yes, you are. You're doing it with a smile, but it's still an attack." Missiles hit like a blow. For a second, even Joy looked caught off guard. Her eyes flicked toward the audience, searching for support. But they weren't laughing anymore. Jennifer leaned back, still calm, still dangerous. "You invited me to promote my film, but all you've done is try to humiliate me. Is that what you do to every woman who refuses to play nice?" Joy's jaw tightened. "This is The View, sweetheart. We ask the questions people are thinking." "Then maybe people should start thinking better questions." A sound escaped from somewhere in the audience, a low murmur, almost applause, quickly stifled. Crimson's cheeks flushed. "Oh, please," she said, waving a hand. "You celebrities love to play the victim. You've got millions of dollars, you live in mansions, and somehow we're the bullies?" Jennifer's voice turned sharp. "You think money protects you from pain? From judgment? I've lived through things you couldn't imagine and still had to show up smiling so women watching could believe they were allowed to dream too." The energy in her voice cracked open something raw. "You talk about me like I'm a product, not a person. But I'm not your headline. I'm not your segment filler between commercials. I'm a woman who built her life from the ground up. And you're sitting here trying to tear it apart for ratings." The audience began to clap, louder this time. Joy's expression froze. The cameras caught her blinking, the tension visible even through the layers of makeup and light. Jennifer wasn't done. "You want honesty? Here it is. You don't ask questions to get answers, you ask them to get reactions. Because outrage sells better than truth." She paused, breathing through her nose, steadying the emotion threatening to spill. "But I'm not giving you that reaction. Not this time." Baseball grew again. Joy leaned in, her voice dropping to a low whisper, the kind meant to sound private, but designed to be heard by everyone. "You're proving my point, Jennifer. You really can't take a joke." Jennifer looked at her for a long, heavy second. Then she said, with devastating calm, "You're confusing cruelty with comedy." And that's when the line was crossed. Joy stood up slightly from her chair, her voice rising. "Oh, give me a break! You think you're the only person who's ever been criticized? You're not special, honey." Jennifer stood too. Not fast, not angry, deliberate. "You're right," she said. "I'm not special. I'm just the only one who's not afraid to call this what it is." Prescription's voice cracked through the speakers. Again. "We're cutting to break!" But Jennifer was already walking off the set. The audience gasped, half rising to their feet as she brushed past the cameras and into the shadows behind the stage. Joy turned to the camera, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. "Well," she said, "looks like she couldn't take the view." But her hands were trembling. And behind that wall of applause and commercial noise, Jennifer Lopez was pacing in the dark, shaking, furious, and unbroken. The cameras hadn't seen the last of her, because when she came back, it wouldn't be to smile. It would be to finish what Joy started. Backstage smelled of cold coffee and nerves. Crew members whispered, pretending not to look, but everyone's eyes followed Jennifer as she moved past the makeup mirrors. Her heels clicked sharp against the tile, controlled, rhythmic, the sound of someone holding themselves together by sheer will. Are we still live? A voice whispered in a headset. Commercial, 90 seconds left. Someone else, is she coming back? Jennifer didn't answer. She was pacing, one hand gripping her phone, the other pressed to her temple. Every breath came like she was swallowing a storm. The producer, young, nervous, sweating through his blazer, approached carefully. Jennifer, listen, if you could just... She turned. Her eyes were calm again, but the kind of calm that burns. Don't, she said. He froze. You saw what happened out there, she continued. You saw what she said. I know, he said quickly, but this is live TV. We can't... Then maybe live TV should remember people are watching, Jennifer said, voice quiet, deadly measured. He tried to smile, to soften it. Look, we can smooth it out. You come back, wrap the segment nice and clean, everyone wins. Jennifer looked at the floor. Everyone except the truth. The words hung in the air like smoke. Meanwhile, out on stage, Joy Behar was buying time. Well, she said to the camera, pretending to laugh, that's what happens when you hit a nerve. Guess we'll see if she cools off during the break. The audience laughed awkwardly. One of the co-hosts shot her a warning look. Another whispered something Joy ignored. 50 seconds to live. Backstage, the producer pleaded, Jennifer, please, if you walk out, this becomes a headline. If you come back, you control it. She finally looked up, her reflection catching in the vanity mirror, eyes rimmed red, jaw tight. Control, she said softly. That's what everyone wants, isn't it? Seconds. Jennifer took a breath, deep, steady. Then she stood taller, adjusted her blazer, and walked toward the stage doors. 15 seconds. Simmons whispered, she's coming back. Joy heard it through her earpiece. She'd be back, she muttered under her breath. 9. The studio lights glared to life. The applause sign flashed, and Jennifer Lopez walked back onto the set. The sound was instant, thunderous, relief, anticipation. Everyone could feel something was about to happen again. Joy straightened her posture. Welcome back, everyone, she said cheerfully. Jennifer Lopez has decided to rejoin us. Guess we scared her off for a second. Jennifer sat down, slow, deliberate. No, she said. You didn't scare me. I just needed to remember who I was talking to. The laughter died instantly, unsure where to point. Joy's tone tightened. We were just having a little fun. You know, teasing. Jennifer smiled, soft, unshaken. Fun is when both people are laughing. For the first time, Joy didn't have an immediate comeback. The silence stretched too long, too naked for television. One of the co-hosts jumped in, desperate to save it. Jennifer, a lot of people online love how outspoken you are. Do you think people misinterpret that confidence? Jenna turned to her, grateful for the question but unwilling to let the deeper truth fade. Confidence isn't arrogance, she said. It's clarity. It's knowing when you're being respected and when you're not. The words hit loud again, brittle. So you think I disrespected you? Jennifer turned her head, eyes unwavering. You didn't think. You knew. A murmur rippled through the audience. The co-host on Joy's right tried again. Maybe this is a moment of misunderstanding. Shook her head. No. It's not misunderstanding when someone keeps poking and then calls it curiosity. That's manipulation. Joy's face stiffened, her usual poise cracking just a little. You're overreacting, she said sharply. Jennifer leaned in slightly. And you're deflecting. Gasps. A few claps. Joy chuckled again. Too loud, too long. You know, I've interviewed presidents, movie stars, and rock legends. None of them ever took it this personally. Jennifer's voice was quiet but unrelenting. Maybe none of them had to sit here while someone tried to make their humanity a punchline. The words landed like thunder. For a moment, Joy looked like she might respond, then stopped herself. Her hand trembled as she adjusted the papers in front of her. The show's floor manager motioned frantically for someone to cue a pre-taped clip, but Joy waved him off. "No," she said into her mic. "Let's finish this." Silver Jennifer didn't move. "Finish what? You've already said what you wanted. You got your reaction, your viral moment." Her tone softened, just slightly. "Yeah, but you didn't get to control the story." This followed was strange. Not angry anymore, not explosive. Just quiet, thick, almost mournful. For the first time, Joy didn't look like the confident host. She looked tired. Jennifer sat back, exhaling slowly. "You know what the hardest part of this job is?" she asked. "It's not the critics. It's pretending things like this don't hurt. Because the moment you admit it does, people call you dramatic." She looked down at her hands. "I'm not dramatic. I'm just done pretending." The audience broke into applause, genuine, full, emotional. Joy forced a small smile, eyes glinting. "Well, Jennifer, that's certainly one way to get people talking." Jennifer looked at her, the kind of look that doesn't need words, and said quietly, "It's not about talking. It's about listening." The director's voice cracked through the speakers. "All right, we're going to one last break." Tyler Big dimmed again. Joy exhaled sharply, muttering under her breath, "I can't believe this." Jennifer didn't reply. She stood, walked off the set again, slower this time, leaving the echo of applause behind her. Backstage, she leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The quiet there felt different now. Not suffocating, not angry. Just still. A production assistant approached her, tentative. "Are you okay?" Jennifer nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, I think I am." Out on stage, Joy Behar was staring at her cue cards, her reflection flickering on the glass table in front of her. The laughter from the audience had faded. For the first time that morning, the view didn't feel like her show anymore. The final segment was still coming, but no one knew how it would end. And Jennifer, calm, collected, wounded but steady, was about to make sure no one forgot it. The last segment began in silence. No laughter, no pretense. The air itself seemed to hesitate. Lopez walked back to her seat one final time, her face calm but eyes sharp. The kind of calm that comes only after you've decided not to be silenced again. Joy Behar cleared her throat, voice smaller than before. "Jennifer, before we wrap up, anything you want to say to your fans watching?" Czech Letter looked at her, then at the camera. "Yeah," she said softly. "Don't let anyone convince you that speaking up makes you difficult. The truth only scares people who've learned to hide behind jokes." The audience applauded, slowly at first, then louder. Joy forced a smile, but her tone cracked. "Well, we've all learned something today." Jennifer stood, adjusting her blazer, eyes still locked on Joy. "Maybe you have," she said quietly. And then she walked off. Not storming, not fleeing, just leaving. Didn't stop. It followed her past the cameras, down the hallway, out of sight. Joy sat frozen behind the table, the lights glaring down, her cue cards trembling in her hands. Reluctance. No one said a word. Unpredicted. Just silence. The kind that doesn't end when the show does. And as the screen faded to black, one line lingered in the air. Sometimes walking away isn't quitting. It's remembering who you were before the noise.